All right, so you want to be an equipment engineer, huh? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into how to totally ace that interview using RoleCatcher's career guide and interview guide.
We'll break down what the job really is, what employers want to see, and how to nail those interview questions. Ready to impress.
It's like having a cheat sheet for your career, but, totally above board.
Yeah.
Both guides have these 8 common interview questions. It's kind of wild they're identical in both. Like, is that a hint these questions are everywhere?
Oh, absolutely. It just shows how crucial these topics are for anyone who wants to be an equipment engineer. Let's start with the first one, shall we? Describe your experience in designing and implementing equipment upgrades.
Sounds pretty straightforward, but I bet there's a smart way to answer this.
You got it. It's not just about rattling off projects you've done. They want to see you can take charge, solve problems, and you're into new tech. Think about a time when you saw a need for an upgrade. Maybe you even fought for that change. What was going on? What was the issue? And what did you do about it?
Oh, that reminds me. The interview guide mentions the STAR method. Can you give us a little refresher on that?
Sure thing. STAR, it stands for Situation, Task, Action, Result. Basically, you're telling a mini story. Set the scene with the situation, describe what you were supposed to do, what actions you took, and then, bam, finish strong by highlighting the awesome outcome.
So instead of just saying, I upgraded a system, it's more like, our old system was causing X problems, so I researched and put in place Y solution, which led to Z improvement, right?
Bingo. And always try to measure those results. Show them the impact you made. Now, let's say you totally nailed that first question. The interviewer might dig deeper, ask how you made sure that upgrade played nice with the existing systems, especially if teamwork or collaboration was a big deal in the job description.
Ooh, good point. It's like they're testing how well you think on your toes. Having those specific examples prepped is huge EE.
Okay, question 2. How do you ensure equipment reliability and minimize downtime? This one screams, be proactive, am I right? You're singing my tune. Downtime equals money lost, and nobody wants that. This is where you whip out your knowledge of preventative maintenance programs. The guide even suggests getting certified. Have you thought about that?
Certifications are like gold stars on your resume. They show you're serious. Now, for someone just starting out, are there any certifications that hold more weight for equipment engineers?
That is a fantastic question. And you know what? RoleCatcher's AI can totally help you figure that out. By looking at tons of job descriptions, their AI can tell you which certifications pop up the most in your field and location.
That's so slick, like having a career guru in your pocket. Now, back to reliability and downtime. What kind of follow-up questions might they throw your way?
They might get specific. Ask about preventative maintenance techniques you've actually used, or how you stay updated on industry best practices. They might even get tricky and ask about a time a machine did fail and what you did about it.
Gotcha. Be ready to talk troubleshooting. Which, speaking of, question 3 is all about that. Describe your experience with troubleshooting equipment issues. I feel like this is where those analytical skills really shine.
100%. This question separates the problem solvers from those who just notice problems. Employers want to hear about your thought process when things get messy. Can you walk them through a specific example? Highlight how you found the root cause and, of course, fixed it.
And don't be afraid to geek out a little. This is your chance to flaunt that technical knowledge. Now, the interview guide has those sample answers. Should people memorize them word for word?
That's where RoleCatcher's AI can be a lifesaver. Those sample answers give you a good starting point, but the AI helps you customize them. It tailors your responses to your own experience and what each job description really wants.
It's like having a personal editor for your interview answers. That is brilliant. Back to the questions. Number 4, how do you ensure compliance with safety regulations when designing and implementing new equipment? Safety first, right?
Can't stress that enough. Employers need to know you're all about safety and you understand the rules. Don't just list regulations, though. Explain how you've built safety right into your work.
Right, it's that whole proactive thing again. Not just reacting to hazards, but stopping them before they happen.
Exactly. And guess what? This is another area where RoleCatcher's AI rocks. It provides industry-specific safety regulations, so you're totally in the know.
Talk about a game changer. Okay, before we move on, I gotta ask. The career guide mentions continuous learning a lot. Why so important, do you think?
Well, equipment engineering is always changing. New tech, new standards, you got to keep up to stay competitive. Employers want people who are committed to learning their whole careers.
It's not just what you know now. It's being open to growing and adapting. Love that.
Couldn't said it better myself. Now, ready for question 5. Describe your experience with project management in the context of equipment engineering.
It's interesting how this one goes beyond the purely technical stuff. They're looking for well-rounded people, right? Who can handle the big picture.
Absolutely. This is your time to shine as a leader, show you can manage budgets, timelines, and work with different teams. And remember, even if you haven't had a formal project management role, you've probably done stuff that counts.
Right. Even leading a group project in college or organizing volunteers, it all adds up.
You got it. Never underestimate those experiences. Now, follow-up questions for this one. They might ask about your project management style or how you deal with conflict on a team.
It's all about those people skills, right?
Yes.
Being able to work well with others. Okay, before we hit question 6, I want to loop back to career growth. The guide mentions the typical path for an equipment engineer, from entry level all the way up to principal engineer. Any advice for someone just starting out?
First things first, build a strong foundation of technical skills. Master those engineering principles, design software, and the specific equipment in your industry. But don't forget those soft skills we talked about: communication, teamwork, problem solving. They're gold.
And be a sponge. Soak up knowledge from everyone, colleagues, mentors, even folks with less experience. You never know what you'll learn.
Couldn't agree more. Now, shall we tackle question 6? It dives into the nitty-gritty. Describe your experience with equipment installation and commissioning.
This sounds like where that meticulous attention to detail and ability to follow complex instructions really matters.
You're spot on. It's one thing to design on paper, but can you make it work in the real world? That's what matters.
And I'm guessing that often means troubleshooting on the fly, dealing with those curveballs and finding creative solutions.
Exactly. Speaking of curveballs, they might ask you about a time an installation went sideways and how you handled it. They want to see how you adapt under pressure.
It's all about those real-world scenarios. Okay, moving on to question 7. This one seems familiar. Describe your experience with managing equipment maintenance programs. Preventative maintenance is a recurring theme, isn't it?
And for good reason. It's the backbone of equipment engineering. This question lets you highlight your organizational skills, your understanding of best practices for maintenance, and your experience working with technicians and other team members.
It's about being that organized, proactive force that keeps those machines running. Do you think they'd ever ask about specific software or tools for managing these programs?
Definitely. It's a good idea to brush up on industry standard software, things like computerized maintenance management systems or CMMS. They're used to track work orders, manage spare parts, and analyze all that equipment performance data.
The behind-the-scenes heroes keeping those machines humming. All right, we're on the final question. This one feels big picture. Describe your experience with implementing continuous improvement initiatives in the context of equipment engineering. It's all about that growth mindset we talked about, right?
You hit the nail on the head. Employers want to know you're not satisfied with good enough. You're always looking to optimize, improve efficiency, and innovate.
So even if a system's working, you're thinking, how can I make it even better?
Precisely. This is where knowing things like lean manufacturing or Six Sigma comes in handy. They're basically frameworks for eliminating waste, reducing errors, and optimizing how things are done.
Those sound kind of complex. Does a newbie need to be a certified Lean or Six Sigma expert to impress in an interview?
Certifications are great, but don't sweat it if you don't have them. Even just understanding the basics of these methodologies and how they apply to equipment engineering shows you're on the ball.
It's about showing you're familiar with the concepts and eager to learn. Now, last question and all, I want to give our listeners a chance to apply this. Imagine you're in that interview, and they ask you to describe a specific continuous improvement initiative you led. What comes to mind?
This is where having a killer story ready to go will make you stand out. Think about your past experiences. Maybe you spotted a bottleneck in a production line or found a way to reduce waste in a maintenance program.
Walk us through it. What was the situation? What did you do? And what was the impact? Those real-world examples really stick with people.
Exactly. And if you can, put some numbers to it. Did your initiative cut down on downtime, boost efficiency, save money? Numbers pack a punch.
They show rather than tell. Okay, before we get to question 6, I wanted to swing back to something from the career guide. It mentions joining professional organizations for equipment engineers. What do you think about that?
Those organizations can be super valuable, especially when you're new to the field. Networking, continuing ed, staying current on industry trends, it's like having a built-in group of mentors and peers who get it.
It's like that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but for your career. Okay, on to question 6. This one gets into the nuts and bolts of the job. Describe your experience with equipment installation and commissioning. What are your thoughts?
This one goes beyond just knowing the technical stuff. It's about showing you can plan, execute, and troubleshoot, in the real world. Think back to a time when you were part of an installation project. What were some of the curveballs you faced, and how did you handle them?
It's showing you can roll with the punches, right? Did you have to think on your feet, come up with a clever workaround? Those are the kind of stories that interviewers love.
For sure. They want to see your problem-solving skills in action. They might even follow up with questions about specific safety procedures you followed during installation, especially if the job involves dangerous materials or high-voltage equipment.
Safety first, always. Better safe than sorry. Speaking of real-world experience, I wanted to touch on something some listeners might be thinking. What if they don't have a ton of hands-on experience yet? Maybe they just graduated or are changing careers.
That's a great point, and it's where RoleCatcher's AI can really come in handy. You can actually use the platform to highlight transferable skills from other jobs or even projects you did in school. Like if you've managed a team or a budget before, those skills are totally relevant to equipment engineering.
It's all about framing your past experiences to show how they fit this role. So smart. All right, on to question 7. Describe your experience with managing equipment maintenance programs. This whole preventative maintenance thing keeps popping up.
It's important. It's like the foundation of equipment engineering. This question gives you a chance to really show off your organizational skills, your understanding of those best practices, your experience working with technicians, the whole shebang.
It's about being the organized, on top of it person who keeps things running smoothly. Do you think interviewers ever ask about specific software or tools for managing these programs?
Oh, absolutely. It's a good idea to be familiar with industry standard software like CMMS, that's computerized maintenance management systems. They use them to track work orders, keep tabs on spare parts, and analyze all that data coming in from the equipment.
They're like the unsung heroes of the manufacturing world. Okay, last question. This was nice and broad. Describe your experience with implementing continuous improvement initiatives in the context of equipment engineering. That growth mindset in action, right, Chef?
You nailed it. Employers want to see that you're not okay with just okay. You're always striving for better, more efficient, more innovative solutions.
Not just fixing what's broken, but thinking, how can we make this even better? Even when things are working fine.
Exactly. And this is where your knowledge of things like lean manufacturing and Six Sigma can really give you an edge. They're all about finding and eliminating waste, reducing defects, and making processes as efficient as possible.
Now, those sound pretty complicated. Does someone brand new to this field need to be like a certified lean or Six Sigma guru to impress an interviewer?
Certifications are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but even a basic understanding of these methodologies and how they relate to equipment engineering shows that you're thinking strategically.
It shows you're in the know and ready to learn more.
Perfect. Now, I know we've covered a ton, but I wanted to circle back to RoleCatcher's AI one last time. This tool seems crazy helpful throughout the entire job search, from fine-tuning your resume to acing those interviews. It really is. RoleCatcher's AI takes out all the guesswork. It gives you personalized advice, feedback, even practice opportunities to help you put your best foot forward.
It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Speaking of putting your best foot forward, any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they prep for those equipment engineer interviews?
Remember, preparation is key. Know your stuff cold. Practice your answers until you're sick of hearing them, and don't be afraid to let your passion shine through.
And if you're looking for an extra edge, definitely check out RoleCatcher's AI platform. It could be a game changer. Okay, before we wrap up this section, I wanted to touch on something we mentioned earlier. This field is constantly changing.
Always be learning, right? It's not just about what you know today, but being ready to adapt and learn new technologies and approaches.
So true. It's not a one-and-done situation. Got to keep those skills sharp.
100%. It's a lifelong journey. But that's what makes it exciting, right? Always something new to discover.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've given our listeners a solid game plan for those interviews. What do you say? Ready to send them off to conquer the world of equipment engineering?
They got this. Remember everything we talked about. Preparation, that proactive mindset, and definitely check out RoleCatcher if you haven't already. It can make a world of difference.
Couldn't agree more. All right, listeners, go out there and wow those hiring managers with your skills, your passion, and your drive to learn.
And never stop learning. The world of equipment engineering needs your talent and your dedication.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, keep those gears turning.